So we've talked a little bit about some of the factors that go into determining whether something is separate property or marital property, but let's go through that in a little bit of an orderly fashion. What are some of the most important factors that should be considered?
Who owned the asset prior to the marriage? How was it acquired by inheritance or gift? Was it the result of a personal injury or reward, and before or after the marriage? And each state law is going to have very specific answers to those questions. It could be a proceed from the sale of separate property invested somewhere else, and then you get into the tracing issue, because yes, while money is a liquid asset, if you have $50,000 as a result of a sale of a piece of property and then it goes into one account and then there's another $50,000 withdrawal, then you can trace it through a series of transfers or investments. That kind of makes a pretty good claim that that was the separate property. And then, of course, appreciation of separate property is going to be can be very complicated or can be very simple depending on state law. Also, we're looking for property acquired during the marriage with separate funds. How does that happen? That could be a complicated issue. And then property separate by agreement, whether you get a prenuptial agreement, postnuptial agreement, and then income generated from an asset acquired prior to the marriage. Look at what efforts were used to create that income.
So what exactly are the types of things that may cause separate property to become marital property?
Right. The two main ways are commingling and transmutation. Commingling is simply, just like it sounds, taking separate property and mixing it in marital property. And we see that most often if there's an inheritance and you put money in a joint bank account or joint investment account. And then, of course, transmutation, we already talked about, most of the time transferring an asset from one to another. But the third way that could be done is where the other party, the other spouse, ends up making a material contribution to the preservation or appreciation of an asset. And my favorite example to talk about there is where we had a case in our state where a wife received $600,000 and went into an investment account, and the wife did not work, but and the investment account was solely in her name, but that investment account generated interest income, dividend income, capital gains, because it was a general stock portfolio, and the husband paid the taxes every year on the income generated in that account. So the husband, at the time of the divorce, the account had appreciated, I believe, somewhere around $180,000, and that became marital property.